It's really such an incredible thing to be together, just as we are here, for 7 days of silent sitting. It's a very small retreat this time, with lots of breathing space between Mass. Every time one comes to this place, one is amazed with the beauty of it. Fresh air, the clear blue water of the lake, the sound of the waves washing over the flat pebbles of all sizes, and the near and distant view to the hills. Trees were sparkling this evening, looking so fresh after last week's rain. And the sound everywhere of the cicadas, or whatever you call them. Sit together for 7 days in silence. Not the silence produced by the force of inner willpower or external discipline imposed. But a silence that is there totally unintentionally, when the mind is free of its habitual demands, both gross and very subtle, of its subtle defenses, attachments, expectations. And there's freedom from all that. Then whatever comes up comes out of silence. Being right now in the midst of this quiet and beauty of this spot on the lake, the open sky above, one wonders seriously why there's so much sorrow, lack of love, confusion and conflict throughout the world. Which cannot be denied if one looks and listens. And maybe as one sits in all openness, allowing to come up whatever will come up from all layers of consciousness, one may realize that oneself is but an extension of this world, or rather this world an extension of oneself. This so deeply embedded sense of inner and outer separation can be seen into. Can it be understood at its very root? Observed dispassionately and without any choice as it functions, the sense of self, of a separate self, which controls and dominates human consciousness. Can it be tracked down, not with a vengeance or with condemnation or the intention to root it out, but to understand it? How does it come about? How does it arise? And can it come to an end? Come to complete silence? Be in abeyance? So that one may be in touch with something that is so much vaster than this narrow sense of me and mine, my identity, my attachments, my beliefs and convictions. It's only when the sense of me, mine, which infiltrates and dominates all of one's consciousness, almost all of one's consciousness, when that is seen clearly in an awareness that is free of judgment, free of self, then love and wisdom, compassionate action flows forth without any design. There is no design in this work. Just listen. What is it? Several things have already been mentioned a couple of rounds ago. I will mention a few more things which are important to pay attention to during the retreat, so the retreat functions smoothly and effortlessly. We already spoke about silence. Can one abstain for the next 7 days from all talking except during meetings? Or of course, if emergency arises where one has to speak. There's a mother here in this retreat with a little child, of course. She will talk to the child. And the child will talk. And they walk up to you and say, hi. Then will you turn away and say, I have a vow of silence? Or say, hi, her name is Robin. So if there's an emergency, can you take the person with whom you have to communicate, where you will not be seen or heard, if possible, by the participants? Out of an emergency, please write notes. There are lots of pads and pencils around. It's quite an amazing thing if one doesn't talk and puts everything that needs to be said on paper, so the mouth does not need to go into operation, except for eating. Do sign your notes clearly, so the person receiving it knows from whom it comes. Sometimes one tends to become a professional note writer. If one observes it carefully, it becomes a way of establishing a new existence for oneself. Maybe one can think twice before one writes a note if it is really necessary. But if it is necessary, by all means, to communicate in this way. But silence is more than not talking. It is awareness of the sounds that one makes in walking, eating, opening doors. Not to worry about sound and or have a new image of oneself as a sort of a silent creeper. To see that if it arises, and to be free to listen to the sounds one makes. That takes care of the sounds, of the extra noise most of the time. Of course there are accidents. Sometimes the quieter one is trying to close a door, the more loudly it snaps closed. Just to see it all and move on, and yet to watch what happens when a bowl is put down or lifted up, when a piece of silver is put down or put into the bowl. It's all worthy of listening and of attention. And with this attention, silence sets in. With the listen, which is free from images of what one should be doing or should not be doing. That is a lot of noise, mental noise. Not just mental noise, it usually clatters in what one does. Quietness in the bedrooms has been mentioned. And maybe people who wish to rest. Can one be free of ideas what people should be doing? If oneself isn't resting, doesn't mean everybody else should be up. One has those ideas to take note of them. And seeing a person resting, it's just that seeing and no judgment, oneself is that resting person and therefore understands what a resting person needs, namely quietness, quiet movements, which do not come out of a guideline, but out of empathy with one another. here and there before mealtime. If there's time, I'll be in earlier from a meeting and say something. Such a good time to observe one's eating habits, one's habits of greed, worry that one may not get enough, or ideas about how much one needs to have. All of this worthy of observation and attention, and watch what happens when attention is there. That is attention, acting, or greed. Whatever that is, one does not need to label oneself, but just to observe how mind and body and everything inside and out functions. We're trying to offer enough different foods so that people can hopefully observe the diet that they need to observe, if there is such a thing, or else write a note to the cook of a particular meal if you have problems. As for sleeping, one may have read all kinds of accounts of people who stay up through the night. There's nothing wrong or shameful about going to sleep if one is very tired, and to get up when one is awake. Can one become aware of how many ideas one carries around about the right amount of sleep that one needs? These ideas may or may not be right for one's daily routines, but they may not at all apply to a retreat such as this. So, not to put one's faith and trust in all one's ideas about sleep, but to find out whether one needs sleep or rest, or whether one doesn't. Doesn't matter whether one takes a rest during the day or at night, or whether one is sitting or walking during the day or night. The time is of no significance in this, or is it? And if it is it an idea? One needs to find this out for oneself, so one can drop whatever is unnecessary burden, mental burden. One is very sleepy during a round of sitting, particularly if one has sat at night, maybe very sleepy during the morning sitting. One can wonder what sleepiness really is. And if one's interest and energy bears on this question, listening to this state of tiredness, which one will not label as tiredness or bad or a hindrance, one is wondering and questioning it, one may find that it dissipates in this energy of questioning and wondering and attending. Not to take for granted any habit, but to be appreciative of the fact that it comes into awareness and question it. Meaning not to be controlled by it. To see it as a habit. Which means something one has established as a repetitive routine, mechanical, which may or may not be necessary at all. One doesn't know. And And yet if there's tremendous tiredness or fatigue, there's nothing wrong with taking the next round off, walking or resting, as long as it was announced when there's walking up and down above this hall, which can be a disturbance to people who wish to sit quietly down here. As was mentioned before, you do not need to attend any rounds of sitting. This is your retreat. You're not required to do this or that. If you wish to take an afternoon off and walk or rest, it's entirely up to you. Some people who have taken a round off or a block of sitting off have mentioned to me how terribly guilty they felt at leaving this place from long habit of having to sit all rounds. This guilt itself is a habitual response to thinking one should not do something. Can it be observed as it is without labeling it and let it do its thing in the observation? It will dissipate if there's no judgment for or against. And yet just because someone else is leaving, to think I have to also leave sitting is what is wrong with me, that I sit here all the time, this is idea. So can one become aware how much one is dominated by ideas of what one thinks one ought to do because the others are doing it or not doing it. So one ought not to do it either. These 7 days of silent sitting and attention can be serve to bring this heavily conditioned mind into awareness. An awareness which does not judge right or wrong, because then it is not awareness, then it is just thinking. Is it possible that there be freedom from this conditioned mind? In sitting and walking here in the hall, we've always advised that people keep their eyes down and not move the eyeballs left or right or up or down. This goes with the motionlessness of the body during sitting and is a very helpful thing, helpful to slowing down of the brain, quieting down of the brain. As the eyes roam around, seeing this and seeing that, the brain is constantly active with interpreting what is seen and associating it with what this reminds one of, and then the judgments that come in. It may not be easy in the beginning to do this, but it is worth experimenting with, because quite a different state of quietness, stillness can arise in the mind when the eyes do not move as one sits or walks during these walking periods. Obviously during mealtime or work time, one has to look at what needs to be picked up or moved around, or so that one doesn't bump into things. Yet it is amazing when one doesn't totally rely on the eyes or the immediate interpretation that is delivered by the brain to what the eyes see. There's a new sensitivity that is much more whole that comes into being. Sensitivity to what's around. One works together on a narrow space, sensitivity to each other, getting out of each other's way so one is not obstructing each other. This sense does not at all depend on the eyes. When you take a walk, it's up to you to look up. If one looks up at the sky or looks across the lake or watches the bubbles and foam spill over the pebbles, is there just that? Or is there someone there who wants to get something out of it, an experience, who wants to see something? Then there is division, me and that, and my desire to bring it together, which is conflict, a source of frustration, anguish, disappointment and sorrow. What is clear seeing or pure hearing, in which there is no seer or no hearer, meaning no demands or interpretations, nothing. Simply what is there. Also recently, we've mentioned to people that if they wish to face inward, by all means to do so, when they wish to try it out. Some people have reported that they, after trying it out, prefer to not face a wall. In that case, it won't be possible to apply the stick. So if one is working with a stick and wishes to be struck, it is necessary for that reason to keep facing the wall. But if one is not working with a stick and wishes to face inward or outward, whichever way you want to put it, it's up to you. As for the stick itself, maybe I'll repeat what was said because it is relatively new. It's only if you wish to be struck at the discretion of the coordinators that you write a note. Otherwise, you need to turn your head to give the sign that you wish to be struck. You can change that at any time. In other words, if you have written a note that you wish to be struck, as the coordinators see it fit, and you change your mind and let them know. Don't worry over being a vacillating person, that's just an idea. Or needing to be a consistent person, that's another idea. Can one drop all of one's ideas about the stick when they have sat in other centers and have read accounts where the stick is used this way or that way? We have no design on how the stick is used. Coordinators and participants work this out on the spot, as it were, from time to time. And if you need to give feedback, then do so. Can one drop all ideas of what a retreat is, or should be for one, or has been in the past, and start freshly each sitting round, dropping what happened during the last one, so that there's a constant renewing of energy, unburdened by what happened in the past? Is that humanly possible? It is. But saying so doesn't make it possible for someone. It has to be experienced and seen for oneself. That ideas and memories can, in fact, be dropped in attending this instant to what's going on, or questioning who one is, or what is it, or more, without expecting any results from it or imagining any goals. That is the past in operation, imagining goals or striving toward goals, which is the separation of the human mind. Here am I and there is my goal. But mu or who or what is it? Or just attending, not knowing, and that there is no division. Need be no division. If there is division,
you're listening to the Rock of the World.
Can it come as it were under the magnifying glass of attention and be understood and drop in the understanding? Is that possible?
We're WRNO Worldwide New Orleans.
Been mentioned that I don't use the meeting bell anymore. Took me an amazingly long time to put that away. Which means now that ending a meeting is a matter for both of us, not just Toni ringing the bell, because I never used it that way, just ringing people out. But to come to an end in a meeting is the responsibility of both of us. But then to give the sign for someone else to come in to ring the bell out there, or whatever it is, once. I do come into the sitting hall here once during the regular meeting time, and twice, if possible, during the evening sitting rounds. One reason being that it's hard to sit out, not out, any place for 2 hours. Meeting with people, it's good to take a break. So I come in here because we're doing this thing together. And if I stand for a brief period with each one of you, it is not as an evaluator or a judge or a teacher, but it is as a friend, sitting and standing and being with friends. Not to take any measure, as some people have asked me, what are you doing? Are you measuring vibrations or something? If you do wish to have your posture looked at, as some people do, let me know. And then I'll look at it, and if you wish it adjusted a few times, I will do that. Other than that, I usually don't do it very often. I don't even look at the person. Because as was mentioned before, being together does not depend on seeing a person with the eyes or listening to a person with the ears. It's a state of mind in which there is no separation, no sense of me and you, what I am and what you are, what you should be or what I should be. All of this is the essence of separation.
People can return to their sense self.